Thank you, Ms. Damlin. I'm going to go to first something the ranking member brought up, but I agree. This is a time in which we need discourse and competition in discourse. Can't have a few voices, have to have many voices, and I'm very concerned about the decline of local news. One of the things that I believe the FCC should be taking action on is reopening the record as it relates to streaming media services who are now becoming a bigger player in delivering content. And the downside of that is that if we don't have the structures in place to make sure that they get a competitive price for the product that they offer, which I hope at some point in time our committee will be able to turn to these larger issues about the changing landscape of media and some of the critical issues that we face overall. But in 2014, the FCC started a proceeding to examine this issue, but has been stalled for nearly a decade. So today I'm sending a letter to Commissioner Rosenworcel to refresh the record on this issue and to say that streaming media services should bargain in good faith, just as we've had to put good faith in other parts of the media landscape to make sure that we are adhering to the types of things that will give them a fair value for their content. So I wanted to ask all the current commissioners and the nominee if you support refreshing the record on this and taking a look at how we can make sure that local broadcasters get fair value for the content they're providing as we change over to a streaming media landscape.
Well, thank you for the question, Chairwoman. You know, I think it's absolutely true that the way we watch TV has changed. Online streaming services have introduced, they are more competitive, have brought competition to the landscape here, more eyeballs than ever also are going into streaming. I take your point, eager to work with you, that this is part of the record that we have not had since 2014. Eager to work with my colleagues on seeing if there's a way that we can understand. There's no easy fix here from the 1984 Cable Act, the 1992 Cable Act. They don't in particular envision streaming, but asking questions and trying to figure out if we can help in this dynamic media space, I think makes good sense.
Well, my colleague, Senator Grassley, sent a letter to the chair of the commission, and I've seen that response. So I guess what I'm asking you, if you think you should relook at this issue.
I think it's worth reopening the.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Senator, yes, I'm happy to take more information on this issue.
Do you think that you should reopen this and look at it?
If the chair, wants to reissue that docket and refresh the record, I'm happy to take a look at that.
Well, I'm definitely sending a letter to the chair asking that happen. As I mentioned, Senator Grassley sent a previous letter that basically, I think, look, the complexity of this issue is there, but that we can't have an FCC that's stalled over the complexity. We need to resolve this issue. I think Seattle or Dallas or any other of our Denver stations deserve to have a fair value for their media content. I think in a lot of ways local journalism is what people still trust today. And yet if they're undercut in the negotiations, just as we had to force in Stellar and other places, good faith negotiations, I think we should do that as well here. Ms. Gomez, do you have a comment on this?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I agree with you. Local broadcasting is so important. It is where citizens can learn about the news, about emergencies, and the economic model is getting more and more challenging given the changes in the marketplace. So if confirmed, I would certainly want to work with you, with the committee, to understand this issue and delve into the causation and what the commission can do given the current law.
So certainly support the commission's restored auction authority for spectrum. And I think federal agencies need to figure out how to work together so that we don't have conflicts here. I do support the House's movement towards this legislation that I hope we will consider here too as well. Ms. Gomez, this is a particular area of expertise for you. Where do you think we should be going as a nation in trying to free up more spectrum and the conflicts that have, I certainly want our NASA and NOAA agencies to be supported, not ignored. What do you see as the process here for us getting more expansive policy on spectrum?
Thank you, Chairwoman. As you note, I have extensive experience working at both NTIA and at the FCC on spectrum matters. That gives me a unique viewpoint into the commercial needs for spectrum to be the lifeblood of innovation, as well as the need of federal agencies to conduct their missions in a successful manner. They're important missions. I think it is incumbent on the NTIA and the FCC to always be looking at new ways and new spectrum for future uses. It can be a long-term process, so they need to work together. They need to identify spectrum, both on the commercial side and on the federal side, to study for possible sharing or repurposing in order to enable innovation.
Do you think the international community is ahead of us on sharing?
That is a very good question. The U.S. has been a leader in terms of spectrum management and sharing. I think that maintaining that leadership means that we have to continue to move forward to identify spectrum for all uses.
Thank you. We have a long list of people who want to ask questions today. So, Ms. Damlin, I'm going to submit something for the record for you, but clearly care a lot about the oversight of this agency's. And I like the DNA. I can't imagine being the Inspector General for the Department of Treasury, so I'm sure your dad came home with lots of stories. But this is about the management of a resource for our nation, and the bright light and oversight at a time when equity, as we outlined in all of our opening statements, is critical for Americans' competitiveness. But I will submit that for the record.